fresh, clean steel. So I ordered the front driver and the front passenger floor plans from BJ's Off-Road. No, this is not sponsored. This is just what's available. They fit okay. I traced them out here. I should have recorded that, but the red line that you see is roughly the size of the clean panel up to the overlap here, and then all the way to the seam here. So what I think I'm going to do, there's a cross member here and a cross member here. Unfortunately, BJ's stuff is just a little bit short for me. I wish that it had, that it would go further back. I don't need to replace this stuff here. So what I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up doing is sectioning some stuff, replacing, maybe making a patch around this, and then having an overlap here, like with a flange, so that the new panel can sit flat on the flange. So I think that's what's going to happen. For now, I think I am going to take the rest of this metal out. Maybe not all the way to the seam here. Maybe I'll follow it, let's say around here to this line. This is still fine. There's no issues here. So I'm just going to follow it, to take all of that off. I don't know. Maybe I'll end up taking this corner and then kind of coming back this way, like that, something like that. I don't want to have to separate. I don't want to have to separate here if I don't have to. Let's see where we end up. I'm just going to start peeling some of this back and let's see where we end up. I am going to end up making a plate for that that's not that, and the same for the transmission tunnel cover, and the same one here. All right, what am I going to use? Well, I have this air hammer with a cutting blade. That works really well on steel that's flat and let's say not springy like here. It just busts through all the rust. So I'm gonna wait as much as I can to break out the angle grinder, but I'm sure I'll get there eventually. So I'm just gonna kind of follow this line here. This is where the cross member is. You can see the cross member is here, so I'm going to leave myself plenty of room. I looked underneath. There's nothing that I'm going to catch, and I think I'm going to just kind of work on the big spots and then peel everything this way, maybe make a cut across, and then work on the edge there. And let's see how we end up. So this will be loud. So mind your headphones. Mark the line that I'm going to follow. Up to about here, there's a cross member. Let's see it. Right there. It goes across. So I left myself some room. I'm just going to go here and across, and then we'll piecemeal the rest. That's one of the issues in using a tool like this. If you get into a little bit of a divot here, it'll start to punch through, and then you don't have a lot of room. So I'm just trying to kind of wedge this in here, and I might end up having to straighten this out to get it to go. Harbor Freight. Not even warm. Damn it. Alright, well that's as far as I can go without the right chisel. So we're gonna break out the disc and we're just gonna go straight this way. Okay. So that's where the cross member was. Clean under that for the most part, except for where the rust holes were from the top. Right? Some sort of undercoating. May have been a dealer option, but pretty clean underneath. So I'm going to continue to work on this a bit. This is still just a rough cut. I managed to slice into the cross member a little bit. I'll weld that up before we do anything with the floor pan. So we'll have to figure out how far. I mean, like I said, I do want to go all the way to the front here. So I'll make some shallow cuts. There's nothing underneath here. So this cross member just goes from, this one goes from here out to the body, out to the seam here. So I just got to be careful going across here. And then I'm just going to use the spot weld cutting bit, or the kind of the angled chisel bit here. Right, here you are. To knock the rest of it out, because that's just spot welded in. And then I can plan out the rest. Okay, great. All right, let me get you a little bit closer. So, made a line here, made a line there. So now there are just spot welds that hold this in place. So we'll knock those out, or at least start, and see where we end up. Didn't go deep enough here. That's going to need a little bit more. How are we looking? Well, let's see. Cross members look pretty good, except for where I cut them. Not a big deal. The bulkhead sheet metal that comes down, there are a couple of holes. There's one here. I'm gonna get all the paint off and everything so I can take a better look, but I know that there's a hole here and there's a hole here. The rest is pretty clean, even in the corners, right? So here and here. So I will probably just patch that. This section here, that's a little scabby. Gotta think about this a little bit. I'm gonna get the wire wheel and clean all this up. I'm still gonna cut some of this off here reasonably cleanly. so that I can match it up. I think what I'm going to have to do is come down here and across this way, because I can't reproduce this whole triangle here. So I'm going to cut this out and probably have to piece these bits together with something. Like, it feels fine on the inside, so I'm going to cut this like so and just patch it, and then make a line and kind of maybe, I don't know, walk around here, leave a little bit of room for a flange, come around like this. The problem I'm going to have is when I get back here. So what I really need to figure out is how far back I'm going to go on this side. This cross member runs all the way back, and there's a cross member, or at least, yeah, there's a piece that runs here. That's the seat mount. And there's nothing back here. So potentially I could just come to the back end of this, the back end of this cross member here, so that I have some place to weld to, spot weld here, and then come this way. So I'm staying on this cross member, and then go across. You know, there's no support underneath here in that hole. So I'm just going to have to flange that and weld to it. And it'll be plenty strong. I just need to make sure that I can cut a straight line somehow. More to follow. In this corner, I'm going to take this patch out. I'm going to keep this metal for now. I can always cut more, but I want to see what it looks like for sure. This is going to go. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to take the full corner out, but I will be probably cutting, or at least grinding off this seam here. So I'm not going to record that because there's no real good way to get there. Where are we? So I'm here in the corner. I removed this piece. So now we've got just the firewall sheet metal. I did find a little hole right there. So I'm going to grind that out. Die grinder. This feels a little thin, so I might just fill that up with a weld. That shouldn't be too bad. But the rest of this looks, well, looks how it looks, but it's not rotten except this piece. So I'll patch this, patch this up here. As we work our way back, I have to decide kind of how I'm going to do this. Do I want to cut this whole thing out and spot weld along the edge here? It's looking like that might be the easiest thing to do. Before I do that, I'll put the new steel on here and see how far I can go. I will probably, you know, cut somewhere like this, and then end up creating a patch for these spots here. Yeah, so let me get the new steel in, and so we can see how far we can go. So this is the new panel. It is up as far as the old panel was. Let's see, that line up there. about, it's just about like that. So here I could make some fancy cuts and try to match this in one piece. I'm not confident my origami's that good. More importantly, here. So what I might do, because I'm not going all the way up here, and I do have the passenger side floorboard. I'm going to use some of this steel or a piece from the passenger side and make a plate that replaces this, and I'll probably go all the way out here. So let's just remeasure this here. That's where it goes. Like that. Like that. So yeah, right on the red line. So we're going to cut here probably half an inch away from that edge. That way I have a flange tool. I'm going to flange this metal, the old metal, so that I can sit this on top. And anywhere I don't have a cross member, I'll just spot weld it across. That should be plenty strong. We'll weld through, primer everything that needs to be, but we're quite a bit far from that. I'm going to follow this inside line around that bend. Let's see. Lots more sparks to come. So I took my little belt sander and started working on these spot welds here. I can't get a spot weld drill this way. It goes at an angle, and if you do it at an angle, it just starts to run away. So that didn't work very well. So there are these spot welds here, and then on the bottom, underneath, there's spot welds on that flange too. So I'm going to try to separate the top first, and then come down here and separate the floor from that piece. But see, everything else down here looks pretty good. You know, there's some scaly stuff, but not bad at all. So I'm happy that most of this seems to have been from the top. And before I go all crazy with the air hammer, I'm going to try to gently separate this. All you woodworkers, look away. Just kidding. Down here, see that flange? That's what I'm trying to separate without damaging it too much. I can always straighten it back out. So let's just keep working it. Need to go a little deeper. Okay, so here's the flange. I'll have to straighten it out, but those holes are where the spot welds were, and I'll weld that up from the bottom. We'll clean these up. We'll drill the panel, and we'll create a flange here for the new panel to sit on. I'll keep working on this stuff here. Yeah. Phew. Well, I think this is where we are. I missed drilling these the first time. I missed this the cross member underneath stupidly, so I have to fill these back up. But generally speaking, reasonably good fit up now. There's a lot of contour to the original floor, and based on the amount of rust that I had to cut, I ended up having to go a little bit higher. So the BJ stuff doesn't fit. The BJ stuff is basically a very uniform curve, and as you can see here, there's quite a bit of geometry, so I had to kind of stretch this, and I'm just going to work the metal back in there with the welds as I go. It's going to be under a little bit of pressure, but I think that'll be okay. So it's going to look kind of like that, and I think we'll have plenty of weld to hold it in place, and I could even go to the end here. So next step, I think I'm gonna, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna start putting some weld through primer, cleaning things up first, getting a lot of this stuff out of the way, and then we'll do it. I also cleaned up a couple of these holes that I found on the firewall. One here, one there. I'm gonna weld up that hole. I think I'm just gonna cut a little patch and butt that on there. And same thing with that one. And I think this will be okay. But when I get everything ready to weld, I'm going to teach my son how to do it, and we'll go from there. So let's see, weld through primer, this stuff. You know, there's overspray, but all this is going to get stripped after welding anyway. I just wanted to make sure I get good film build here. This is the bottom side on both of these panels. We'll flip this over. I am just going to spray that up anyway. And then we'll put it in, or I'll spray the top side where the welds are going to be. And I think then we are ready to weld. Just a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to do all that sort of stuff in a different video. Alright, it's been a week, and I'm going to make some progress. I'm going to weld up this patch. That's a little magnet, a very strong neodymium magnet. So I'm going to weld that up. For this one here, I'm just going to put my brass plate back here and try to weld that up. Just fill it with some weld. And then I think it'll be time to tackle the floorboard. Okay, so holes are patched to the best of my ability. It's not too bad. I checked for porosity with a light on the back. No pinholes. That took a little while. I'm not very good at trimming these, but everything's filled in. So now we're going to start with this. And because there's a bit of a curve to the floor, and this was flat, I had to kind of fit it as much as I could. And so now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this side in place, maybe tack it, and then kind of work everything toward that corner, because this is where the biggest deviation is. I may end up putting some sheet metal screws in here just to, you know, I'm gonna have to bend it back a little actually. So I'll try to film as much of this as I can without getting terribly frustrated, but no promises. Alright, well, I didn't record the start of it because it was very, very slow. A lot of tacking, untacking, and so on, but made some progress. So I'm in the process of butt welding this edge here. This had to go first. I actually ended up making a new panel, this panel, because I forgot to put a flange on it, so I had to cut it a little bit wider. So ugly so far, but I haven't ground anything yet, and I'm slowly, let's see, I welded these spots here almost to the end here, and I'm slowly going to start pushing everything this way because there's a bit of an oil can going on, so I have to kind of freeze this section first, then go to the other end of the cross member, freeze this side, and then push this down here. That's because of these ridges. So once I get this line and this line down, I'll push this and tack it all in place, and then we'll see where we end up. So I will try to record the rest of this. And my least favorite thing to do is weld holes, and that's what I'm doing. and about 50 more to go. A little progress. I'm having a hard time filming, while I'm doing all this stuff, so I'm just gonna kind of jump in every once in a while. I've got this corner over here pretty well done. Most of this is done. I'm gonna come back when everything cools off and fill in the gaps. And now I'm kind of pushing everything toward that open corner there. So I'm gonna alternate, tack here, push down here, tack, and it's pretty well done. I wasn't able to stretch the metal. There's a little bit of like a concave section right there on the transmission tunnel. So I'll do my best and push it down as much as I can and tack it down, and then I'll seam seal, of course, the top and bottom, and we'll be good to go. After all of it is cleaned up, I'll epoxy everything, and then I'm thinking about spraying the Raptor liner on the interior before the carpet goes in, so for another video. But let me get back to this. Alright, so I ground down most of the welds. I've got a pretty big gap here. I don't really want to fill all that up with weld. I'm just afraid that that's going to be a lot of heat. So I think I'm going to call it good enough. I might do a little bit of cleanup here and kind of fill in, where I've got some holes. Then I need to put this little patch on here that's just loosely on here, and then this one here, and then continue cleaning up basically. But I think that'll do it for the weld as soon as I'm done. Alright, this is getting long enough, but I'm done, I think. Looks pretty ugly in a lot of spots, but I'm satisfied enough because a lot of this is going to get seam sealed. The stuff here is rust bullet. I really wanted to get it into the creases as much as I can and verify that I've got everything covered. I've used rust bullet before, and I find it's very easy to work with, easier than POR 15. It's not a debate which one is better. This one I think works just as well for my purposes. So I'm going to let this cure up really well, and then I'm going to continue with the cleanup here, get everything down to steel. A lot of the surface here is going to get sanded down anyway. Epoxy everything, and then I have to decide if I'm going to Raptor line the interior. So you guys leave a comment in the doobly-doo if you think Raptor liner would be a good idea or not, and the pros and cons. Okay, that's it for now. One floorboard done. The other one just needs a little patch, and we'll be good to go. Almost back on track.